All right, so star pass rusher in Kansas City who has certainly game-wrecked the Ravens before, Sarah, Chris Jones, had a chance to catch up with reporters at a press conference earlier this week. And while he wasn't specifically asked anything about the Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen ongoing MVP debate from a year ago, he went there himself in a lot of ways by sharing these sentiments, not just on the Ravens, not just on Derrick Henry, but on Lamar Jackson and what he has turned himself into as a full-fledged weapon.
As you see on film, fast, explosive. Any play in the game, he can change the dynamic of it. So, with him, it's always tough to play against Lamar and the Baltimore Ravens. Stopping Lamar is one thing, trying to contain him is another. And over the years, you look how prolific as a passer he's become. I think he's completing 70% of his passes, which I think he should have won MVP last year. Have so much respect for him. Derrick Henry is the same as Lamar. Change the dynamic of the game at any point in the game. You got to make sure that not only one person, when he has the ball, not only one person bringing him down, make sure we crowding around him, grabbing him, clawing him, whatever we got to do to get him down, man. I mean, you can take it both ways. It's not often Lamar is easily sacked 7 times. When I heard that stat line, I was like, well, that's crazy. Because the Ravens mostly run the ball, but Lamar can pass the ball too. So, it's the dynamic of the game. I guess they went down and try to get back in the game and throwing the ball. So I get it. It happens. It's not often, but it happens. Derrick Henry is one of the best running backs in the league, fumbles or not. And I think that's new territory for him because you look over the years, he's not a big fumbler. So I'm quite sure he's, working on it this week and the next few weeks to make sure he has the ball high and tight. But it's also as an opportunity for us to somebody grab him first. 2 people grab him first, and let's try to get the ball.
All right, so it was all kind of compiled within one there, right, on the Ravens as a whole, the dynamic backfield, and Lamar and Derrick as running mates. But for the purpose of this conversation, you heard what he slipped in there related to last year's MVP race, Sarah, making it clear where he stands. And I think also contradicting, based on what I saw in my mentions, what he said in the Super Bowl media about Josh's MVP candidacy a year ago, saying that he was clearly, paraphrasing, the league's MVP. Months later, after a lot of people have spoken on this, including us and on all kinds of other national platforms, Chris making it clear, quote, I think he should have won MVP last year. I have so much respect for him. Where are you at?
Well, listen, I didn't remember what he said back in the Super Bowl. I don't know. I don't remember any of that. Maybe he's just playing to his opponents. But yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Lamar should have won the MVP. We've discussed that a million times. He had 22 votes to Josh Allen's 27, but he won the All-Pro MVP. And, it's nice to know here that Chris Jones believes it's Lamar. I mean, a lot of players, they're always trying to come up or players compliment Lamar more. Opponents compliment Lamar more than executives and media. That's just the facts. And so, we can put that in the rearview mirror. We've discussed it a million times. What's interesting is this time around, here we are, and he's about to play Lamar again, and he knows how tough it's going to be. Lamar is playing at an MVP level again. He is number 1 in the league with 9 touchdowns. He's tied for number 1 in the league with 0 interceptions. He's number 1 in the league with 9.6 yards per pass and number 1 in the league with a 141.8 pass rating. He's got the best pass rating in the history of the NFL. Any other quarterback that started out with 9 touchdowns to 0 interceptions through the first 3 weeks, all of those quarterbacks in the past that started that way were undefeated. They were undefeated. Nobody is talking about Lamar Jackson's MVP start to this season, other than Chris Jones, even though he didn't say it for this season. He's talking about how good he is. Nobody's talking about it because the Ravens are 1-2. It's the same predicament that Joe Burrow was in last year. Nobody was even going to really consider him for MVP when they couldn't win. So Lamar, 100%, is a force to be dealt with. Chris Jones is acknowledging that. We all see it in the numbers. We see it with our eyes. He's got a big task in front of him, Chris Jones does, but the Ravens have a bigger task to get themselves right on defense.
And getting over the hump that is these Kansas City Chiefs, who they've only beat once throughout the Lamar era. That came back in the fall of 2021. And somebody who has really had their number, not only is Patrick Mahomes, not only is Andy Reid, of course, but what about the guy who coordinates things defensively for the Chiefs? As pedestrian as they have looked, we look forward to bringing on Danon Hughes, by the way, from his perspective. He's the Chiefs radio analyst in a few minutes. But the guy who's been at the forefront of this success, Sarah, defensively speaking, and again, as pedestrian as they are offensively so far through this year, they are still a championship defense. And that's led by Steve Spagnuolo, who also did his part in buttering up Lamar and the Ravens, right? You've seen a trend here. This is what contenders do. What did Cleveland do? How did they handle things aside from Myles Garrett in the media leading up to week 2, Sarah? They acted like pretenders. And then they got dealt with, as Roquan would say, in that game. The Chiefs, businesslike, very much like the way that Detroit handled its media sessions in the days leading up to Monday Night Football. Here is Steve Spagnuolo on the challenge and what he's seen so far from Lamar and company.
Thing that we always see, a dynamic quarterback with a lot of talent around him and a team that can run the football. They, when they're really good, and they have been all year long, they can dictate the game by being two-dimensional the whole game. And you have to worry about it on every snap. It doesn't matter what the down and distance is. They'll run it when you're supposed to throw it and throw it when you're supposed to run it, and they got guys that can do it.
I'm surprised Detroit was able to sack him a career-high 7 times. Anything you can use from them?
What just stood out to me just watching the game on TV was how relentless Detroit was. The effort that their pass rushers put in, I thought was really, really good, and they found ways to eventually get him on the ground, which is not easy to do.
Sarah, did you hear what he said there at the beginning of the clip, that they can dictate the way that a game is played? We've watched that throughout the Lamar era, right? Whether it was during Greg Roman as the offensive coordinator and or Todd Monken. That's one thing that I think you can compare between the two phases of Lamar. They always want to dictate and control the pace of the game. And if you go back to week 1, and they've had a ton of success in doing so, by the way. You go back to week 1 last year, the AFC Championship rematch, that's exactly what the Ravens did. They won the time of possession battle easily. After 33 minutes and change to 26 for Kansas City. They won third down. They were 7 for 14. They outgained Kansas City in terms of overall yardage that day, 452 to 353, and yet they lost the football game, as we all know, by a toe or whatever. That would have maybe forced overtime, whatever. Ultimately, Spags is right. That's how the Ravens play ball. That's not what happened on Monday night, which is why it was so jarring to see. The fact that not only on their home turf, but just in general, they had in no way did they have any control of that football game, really, from the jump.
Yeah, and even Todd Monken, had to admit to that. How could you not? He said yesterday during pressers that he said, quote, "We never really got into a rhythm running it against the Lions." That's how you control things, is with the run game. And it's staggering to watch that. I thought it was funny. Ramey, as I'm sure many of us follow on Twitter, he quote retweets that from Todd Monken and says, "Hey, Todd, I know a guy that averages 6.9 yards per carry for his career that can help you find the rhythm. And he just happens to reside in Baltimore, Maryland," of course, referring to Keaton Mitchell. And I don't know, but I mean, before people were asking us, hey, should Keaton Mitchell be in there? Well, before I said, well, don't fix what's not broken, which is what was the case at week 1, but it wasn't the case recently. And if you're going to have a hard time out physicaling another team, then some speed would absolutely help. And so, Bobby, you showing Spags right there, and now having Todd Monken here, we had on All 22 coach Derek Coleman, and he felt like, hey, it was one of those games. He doesn't call out the coaches all the time, but he also just felt like the other team's coaches out-prepared the Ravens coaches. And that's why he was also asked about the missed goal-to-go situations where they had 4 opportunities to try to punch it in from 3 yards out. Gave it to Derrick Henry. He gains 2 yards. Okay, looking good. Gave it to Derrick Henry again. Stopped at the line of scrimmage. Then he tried to go outside with Derrick. He mentioned yesterday that third down play he felt like was a bad play call. And then I felt like the 4th down play call was bad. I don't like that play anymore. Too many guys are used to Lamar rolling out over to Mark Andrews when you're at, the 2 or 3 or 1. And the Lions obviously knew it was coming. They were all in his face. So Todd Monken is going to have to do a better job of putting his offense in a position where Spags can't beat him. And the final thing I'll just want to point out that Todd Monken said is they were asking about, what was happening with Lamar holding the ball so long? Was it like he had to wait for the downfield routes? Was it the pass protection? What was it? And he just said, it's all true. It's all the above. But again, we talked about ways that he could open it up, and he's got to be able to scheme things because you have Lamar Jackson. If Lamar has no option to throw the ball downfield or run, then you got to scheme up something better, because there were no running lanes for him, but there were also no open receivers.
Hey, along the Keaton Mitchell lines too, Chris Horton, that was addressed by him in his portion of yesterday's press conference. Of course, he's a special teams coordinator in Baltimore. And yet again, Sarah, he handled it as he has in the past, essentially saying that Rasheen Ali is ahead of him in several special teams categories. He also said that if he were to be out there and active on special teams, he would be so as a gunner. And the Ravens are content with what they have currently at gunner. So Keaton continues to come up in conversation, and they continue to essentially reiterate what their messaging has been in recent weeks, and that is the fact that he is down on the depth chart, if you will, behind Rasheen Ali from a special teams perspective.
That's fine to make that decision on special teams. Totally get that. I mean, I can't say I'm watching the Gunners enough to say, no, Keaton Mitchell's a better gunner. So I'm willing to take his word for it. But on Todd Monken and the offensive side, that's fine. You have a separate choice to make in terms of offensive players, and just don't have another game where Derrick Henry in the run game can't get off the ground, because it happened against the Browns and Lamar took over with his arm, and then it happened with the Lions, but they had too good of coverage for the passing game to take over. So, okay, that's fine on special teams, but that's now 2 weeks in a row where the run game has disappeared, and that can't happen with a Baltimore Ravens backfield with this much talent.
Hey, and to put a bow on this offensive side of the conversation, if Ronnie Stanley can't go, Sarah, they're likely going with Joseph Noteboom against Chris Jones and this defensive front in Kansas City on Sunday. Ronnie has not practiced all week. It's an ankle, as you asked yesterday, and I still haven't figured out what ankle it is, but if it's the surgically repaired with multiple follow-ups angles that almost ended his career within the last few years, that's concerning. Again, we don't know which angle it is, which ankle it is, but knowing that Ronnie is trending towards not playing, it's a big deal, big blow.
It'd be a surprise at this point to see Ronnie Stanley out there, which means Joseph Noteboom would probably be out there. I mean, he's been around the league. I think he has 30 some odd starts, but he's no Ronnie Stanley. And so last week, the Ravens showed an inability to run to the right side. How is it going to be looking with Voorhees and maybe Noteboom on the left side with Chris Jones on the opposing side? That could pose big problems. It's going to be an uphill battle for Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson and company.
On the other side of the football, just in case you guys missed it, Kyle Van Noy and Travis Jones returned to practice. So perhaps they're trending towards encouraging trends, if you will, to potentially be available come 4/25 at Arrowhead. It's Ravens Chiefs. That's what's coming up this Sunday in week 4.